The sky above the frozen plains burned like molten steel, streaked with shards of violet and green light. John Turner's boots crunched against the ice-crusted snow, dragging a crate of fuel that felt heavier with each step, as if the storm itself were resisting him. The wind didn't just howl, it cut, slicing through his jacket and biting into his face like a living thing. Ahead, a barn stood half-buried, its silhouette jagged against the swirling blizzard. He knew it was there because he had built it with his own hands, the same hands that had once held his father's. A sudden snap of rope made him stumble. The crate tipped, fuel spilling out in a dark, hissing rush that sizzled against the snow. John cursed, slipping to one knee, and that's when he heard it. A groan that wasn't wind, wasn't animal, human-shaped, barely, slumped against the fence. His first instinct screamed to turn and run, but something in him didn't. He saw the armor, blackened, scarred, fused to burned skin. Pale alien eyes opened, meeting his. John had seen the stories, the ships that fell months ago, the warnings from the government. Do not engage. But this creature was dying. Alone. Vulnerable. Against every survival instinct, John reached out. He grabbed the alien, dragging it through the storm toward the barn, his muscles screaming, his back threatening to give out. Inside, the brazier's light flickered over the alien's raw, scarred features. John's hands shook from cold, from effort, from fear. But he refused to leave it in the snow. Tonight, a farmer would make a choice. One choice that would defy laws, defy orders, and ignite a bond that could change the fate of worlds. And tomorrow, the universe would arrive on his doorstep. The sky above the frozen plains burned like molten steel, streaked with shards of violet and green light. John Turner's boots crunched against the ice-crusted snow, dragging a crate of fuel heavier than any burden he'd ever carried. The storm didn't just howl, it cut, slashing through his jacket, stinging his face. Ahead, a barn stood, jagged against the swirling white. He knew it was there because he had built it with his own hands, the same hands that once held his father's. A sudden snap of rope sent the crate tipping. Fuel spilled, dark and hissing, eating into the snow. John cursed and slipped to one knee. Then he heard it. A groan, human-shaped, barely, slumped against a fence post, half buried in drift. Armor blackened, cracked, fused to scorched blue flesh. Pale alien eyes opened. John had seen the reports, the fallen ships, the warnings. Do not approach. Do not engage. Yet here, this alien wasn't a threat. It was dying. Alone. Against every instinct, John grabbed the alien, dragging it toward the barn. His muscles screamed, boots skidding on ice, wind threatening to throw him down. Inside, the brazier's light revealed its scars, armor fused to skin, one arm hanging useless. John's hands shook from cold, effort, and fear, but he refused to leave it in the storm. He wrapped his coat around the alien, broke off the last bit of bread from his morning ration, and laid it nearby. The alien's eyes, pale and wary, locked with his. Slowly, it reached toward the brazier, then touched John's hand through the fire's warmth. A spark, fragile but undeniable. Gratitude, connection, humanity. Tonight, a farmer made a choice that would ripple across stars. By dawn, the alien, leaning on John's shoulder, had survived the night. Its breathing, ragged but steady, mirrored the rhythm of John's own heart. John had tended to it with water, warmth, and care, while the creature slowly lifted its hand, revealing a faint glyph burned into its palm. A mark of ritual, of connection. "This is their way," John murmured, recalling the old reports, the whispers about alien customs. They weren't just surviving, they were choosing him, choosing trust, choosing bond. The alien shifted, eyes half-lidded, and traced a glowing line in the frost on the barn floor. John watched, understanding only instinctively. Energy thrummed between them, not psychic in the way he'd read in manuals, but real. A tether formed, fragile but unbreakable, connecting human and alien in a shared heartbeat. And then they came. 5 beautiful women, emerging from the forest in silence, figures moving with lethal grace, eyes like sapphires catching the early light. They approached John cautiously, hands empty, offering no threat. Their leader, tall with sharp alien features softened by compassion, stepped forward. "Our fire is shared," she said, voice melodic, yet firm. John didn't understand the words fully, but he understood the meaning. Care given was care returned. Blood, fire, survival, all tied together. They knelt, a gesture of gratitude, not submission. John's heart pounded. In saving one life, he had earned the trust of many. Word of the injured chieftain and John's sanctuary spread faster than wildfire. By mid-morning, reconnaissance drones flickered across the horizon, scanning his property. John worked furiously alongside the alien women, repairing fences, stacking firewood, tending livestock. Their teamwork was almost seamless. Human endurance, alien precision. "Ever done this before?" John asked, handing a hammer to one of the women. "Never with someone like you," she replied, a wry smile touching her lips. They laughed, but the reprieve was brief. From the ridge, a convoy appeared. Vehicles not human in design, soldiers armored in stark black, led by a commander whose presence radiated authority. Commander Parrish, federal oversight, eyes cold and calculating. He surveyed John's property with disdain. "All non-humans are to be detained immediately," Parrish announced through a megaphone, soldiers fanning out, rifles trained. "Anyone aiding them is complicit." John stepped forward, hands still bandaged from frostburn and fire. "They're under my roof." "They've done no harm." Parrish's jaw tightened. "Law doesn't care for intentions." John's gaze shifted to the alien warrior and the 5 women behind him. "I do." And that's when John made the ultimate choice. He grasped the brazier's torch, skin barely healed from prior burns, and lifted it high. Pain seared through his hands, white-hot, yet he held the flame aloft, unflinching. A gesture of courage, of unity, a challenge no lawman could ignore. The alien warrior mirrored him, pressing her hand to the torch, followed by the others. Human and alien, fire and blood entwined, their bond undeniable. Soldiers hesitated. Parrish faltered. John stood unbroken. Later that night, flames licked across John's fields. Arson, chemical fuel, chaos. The alien women moved with silent efficiency, cloaks shielding the fire, smothering it with practiced precision. John fought alongside them, post-driver glowing white-hot in his blistered hands, driving back infernos that would have consumed everything. Pain screamed through every nerve. Yet he didn't relent. The women matched him stroke for stroke, fire for fire, until the last blaze succumbed. Ash and smoke hung thick, but nothing remained alive but those who stood together. John looked at the 5 women, their eyes reflecting dying embers, and whispered, "Why?" She placed her blackened palm to his. Pain exploded, and through it, understanding emerged. "Now your fire is ours," she said. Human courage, alien skill, combined in a ritual of shared suffering and respect. The bond was more than survival. It was now unbreakable. A symbol that even across species, trust, honor, and bravery could unite worlds. Weeks passed. Villagers watched from distance, suspicion softening as the alien women aided with farm work, repairs, and protection. John's hands healed slowly, scars thick and permanent. Yet, in them, he carried a story of courage and unity. When new ships arrived, carrying refugees like the wounded chieftain before them, John and his allies prepared. Blue flames burned at the corners of his property, markers of hope and warning. Kyle, the leader of the women, stood beside him. "They'll keep coming," John said quietly. "And we'll meet them," she replied. "Together." John looked at his land, his farm, his family, human and alien alike. In feeding one, he had sparked a revolution of trust, courage, and love. Across species, across worlds, he had proven that a human's heart could carry the fire of an entire civilization. The sun set over frozen plains, flames burning bright against the cold, a circle of light against darkness. John exhaled, bandaged hands resting in Kyle's. "I fed a stranger, and fed the world's fire," she finished. The wind cut, unforgiving. But the flames didn't die. They never would.